Very specific.
Oh, wait, the chief, fire chief, he makes them. Okay.
Why not look like I eat butter? It's got calories, I know it.
Yes, it's probably what you did for the snow. So he's not in the first place in Toronto. They have one in Toronto. Yeah, and this is, but they do the best fundraisers. I love them, and when I go down to state, government box, okay. I'll call this meeting to order at 6:15. Any declarations of special interest or general nature thereof? Conflicts? Councillor Maybe.
Yes, when it comes to, that's right, we got a good number here. Again, similar to the public meeting, with, sorry, trying to find your chip. Yes, infrastructure one.
And it's number 5. Number 5, under staff reports.
Yes.
Yeah, investing infrastructure program.
With the camp property.
With the camp property, so 287 to 298. Okay, so I've started those, so we'll ask you to lead to those points of time. Thank you very much. Any other declarations of special interest or conflicts? Seeing none, Councilor Foley?
Thank you, Your Worship. It's not direct, but I'm still gonna, at arm's length, withdraw myself from the community grants.
Okay. Thank you for the declaration. Okay. I'd just like to pass along Councillor Olkey's regrets for this particular meeting. He's traveling abroad and having a grand old time, and wishes us well as we wish him well. So, next on the agenda is our in-camera meeting. It's instructions to be applied to any negotiations carried on or be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality. And then we're going to move in camera for that. So moved by Councillor Jameson, seconded by Councillor Maybe. Committee of the whole adjourned to inform in camera to consider instructions to be applied to any negotiations carried on or be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality. So any discussion on this motion? Seeing none, we'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? Carried. We won't be long. Everyone, thank you.
They just Oh, yeah.
Hell, there's trouble if I've ever seen it times 1, 2, and 3. Don't think you were off the hook either, Al.
Does Dan need to roll that chainsaw?
I don't know if he does or not. We might have a sharpener, a new chain.
Oh, you should have told me. I've got a sharp.
Um,
I got a really nice sharp.
and some other tools, and
Yeah.
$450 invested in the four-wheeler. and-
Well, in a game, take that old one of mine. See if you
Well,
can fix
he's going to,
Yeah.
because then that way the 4 of us don't have to ride it on one together.
it. And if
We
not,
must look like
if
goddamn.
I don't know if you get it going, but sure, want her to try.
Mhm.
And,
Well,
because it just
exactly.
is sat there for a couple of
And
years.
he's got a buddy who's very good at that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
so. Anyways.
Okay, I was gonna talk to those guys for a minute.
Yeah, absolutely. I gotta go grab a drink for myself.
Don't drive the truck in the ditch. You don't drive the truck in the ditch when you drink in it.
No, not every time anyways. Cheapers out.
We're ready here. Nobody takes the front row.
Just all the keeners are there.
Nobody takes the front row.
So what about the blanket pulling stuff?
Yes.
Before the end of October?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, we're camping next weekend and then the weekend after that.
Yeah, I was
I
thinking.
gotta go tenting next weekend.
Ooh,
My husband will not track me down a camper trailer, so that's
Where are you
it.
going to?
I think we're gonna go up to Algonquin, actually.
Oh, okay.
I'm trying to get my daughter and her new boyfriend to come help home.
Yes. There we go.
I would never get.
Put him to work. Oh,
Yeah.
put him to work.
Yeah, well, that's.
It's probably kinder than my.
Her grandson is a exchange student from Spain. He stays with them 4 months, and he goes to Spain for 4 months. The exchange student turned
I'm
out
a
to be
good
a
shot,
girl.
he'd say, right?
Oh,
I come by it, honestly.
Where's? No, bad. He's got a younger
I do
sister.
my girlfriend's only.
But she's from an area in Spain that we never had snow. They used to do like that trip last week to Nautical Park.
And snow.
And it's snow.
They probably are thrilled to see
I
stuff.
think he still does.
I think it's actually, late September.
Yeah. It was that one night, for example, below freezing.
Okay. This is from the quarter? It's, the same on quarter.
Geez, I had a great meeting with Shelley on Friday.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Geez, they got some big plans.
Oh, do they ever?
They're really
Yeah.
excited with this new board meeting.
Oh, no.
It's nothing to do with that. They've got some really exciting.
October 29th.
Yeah.
This is our next
Oh,
board.
okay, so it's this month.
Yeah.
Okay, of course,
Yeah.
then I'm sorry, it's this September.
Right.
Yeah. Anyhow, yeah, so, wow.
It's amazing, because, you know, work on that book with them,
Oh,
so
yeah.
he keeps talking about all this stuff.
I think-
Maybe we can't say that, but maybe we can't say that.
Yeah, 'cause the next,
You know the problem.
Oh, yeah.
the next couple of years, some of them are gonna be big years.
Right. Oh, yeah. Really big.
Yeah.
So they're gonna get into the medium voltage
Exactly.
part of the business.
Yeah, there was what, 5,000? But right now, they're going to go to 2,000.
I don't know the technical specs, but it's a whole.
It's another market.
It's another market.
They bought this line that usually would cost, I'm gonna say $4 million. And they got it for like $300,000 or $400,000.
And it's gonna get into the mining market in a big way.
Yeah.
South America and, well, the ring of fire.
So, really, that's interesting, South America, you wouldn't think it'd ship such heavy stuff, but I guess containers, right? Like yeah, but you just think you'd be closer to the supplier.
Well, they think that these are big contracts and these expensive products.
And there's a lot of money,
Yeah, there is.
you know, Peru, Chile,
And will they do that at 50 count?
50 or 1,400. So it's
I
all,
think 50.
all Prescott does is draw.
Yeah.
So they take the copper rod and the aluminum, and they either draw it down to the whatever spec they need,
Yeah.
or the aluminum, they flatten
Yeah.
it, and then put it onto these coils.
Yeah.
Because 90% of what the Northern does is this armored cape, this jacketed, where the poly and the copper get wrapped in aluminum sheathing.
Yeah. Now they're up to 16. Oh, 16 armor machines at 1,400.
Yeah, just at 1,400 alone.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they can really take over that market, they don't think there's a lot of competition in the mining area. That's true.
How old Shelley?
Yes.
Gee, I really actually don't know.
62.
2?
You mean that we're going 62 or 63?
But he's not slowing down.
No, no.
He wants to win.
He has no other life sort of thing.
Todd's younger, isn't he?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Todd's only 58, 57. Todd's about 6 years younger.
They really want to improve their sales, sales side of the business. Like if you're even an engineering firm that was happening to me.
It's had an operations focus.
Right.
Yeah, now they need a stronger marketing sales focus.
Yeah, exactly.
We hired this guy who had good background and credentials, but he wouldn't move to Brockville.
Right.
Chris,
No.
From Southwestern Ontario.
yeah, down in Burlington, Oakville area.
Yeah.
He's still in the play?
Yeah,
But
but we sort of, like, he's 65, 66 years old.
yeah, it's kind of, he's not working to keeping the system going. He has, but he's not.
Because the industry's new markets and
That's just not where he's at. His head is not there.
I think the
So he was telling me that they're looking for a VP sales.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they're finding a lot of finding.
You know, and that would be awesome, especially,
We tried to get the farmer boy, you know, the guy from Cornwall that sold for
Oh, yeah.
$5 billion to Mexico. We tried to get him on board, but he didn't bite.
All right.
Hi, how are you doing? Good, nice to see you. I heard you enjoyed here. Congratulations.
Ongoing.
Oh, yeah, things going?
Pretty good, yeah.
Nice. Nice lot.
They got, where?
Yeah, 2 doors.
Jimmy's first side. Yeah, they work for my son. It's good to run that family.
It's a French.
Anyway, whoever it is, he wasn't there.
He said he just wanted,
That's the only.
he didn't want to commit. He wants to take 6 months, a year, like he just sold within about 6 months.
Yeah, have you seen what he's done up there?
No, he's built another beautiful.
Well, the main fence house is already, and now there's a huge addition that's going on, and I think is there a daughter there as well. Whoever it is, fat man.
Yeah.
So they knocked down the house that was there and created a zero additional.
Anyway, so he seems, I think.
Somebody hit 8 of the rocks going into the river in front of their place. He brought in some special treatment to take it back to look like original rock. Certainly, it's incredibly expensive to do that. But he didn't let it go
Yeah,
on.
well, you've tried to do that process, it's good.
Is your conditions?
Well, so happy you got that.
She did.
So you got a work and get an operator? Okay.
So cool.
And there was a seat, you said it was a council for
Both are housing.
Yeah.
You know, it's a shame when it gets like hockey and not just boys hockey, even girls hockey.
Yes, it's still.
Parents get so damn.
No, I know, this was cheap.
They're excited about it, and the young street kids come in. It's bad for the kids.
That's what we said, so yeah, like, center back to the, like, all the kids who are so well in there.
I know it's a big number.
I think we're getting up a unique and important thing. I know, you know, like, it doesn't.
A quarter.
I just wrote this.
You did.
Yeah, we were applying for.
So you got it.
World Series in 3 years. For
Oh, is it? What the hell?
Where is it now?
This year it was in.
You would come.
Port.
So it bounces around.
Bounces, it west.
Okay.
And so now it's west. And it's justified.
You got it?
Of course, we got it. Obviously, we got it. But I was.
I see the
my mission never really owed, so. And so, I wrote the history of baseball since 1817. And I realized any kind of time where you get 7 to 10 year run with any league or any team, that's a big thing. You know what I mean? Like, contracts are with the same. And I thought, I mean,
We were telling you, we're in acquisition, we're running some survey. So we ran a Facebook ad and survey.
Anyway, so that's a big deal to have that.
yeah, and you don't become a ship televised on the ESPN.
300 people completed the survey.
So,
For 80 gave us
great
comments on Facebook of
It's
some
great.
one lady, then we also this is the greatest thing I've ever seen.
Well, maybe it was
like how
maybe it was-
So now we're problem, now we say, okay, we're trying to address, we should be, let's go ahead and try to sell these people.
Yeah.
We were absolutely,
So let's get some teams that are sort of.
and we sent everybody a confirmation, so you could answer it. To be.
Yeah.
It was just, we were just, it was,
Yeah, you're.
it was,
And what's good is that everything they could, they bought it.
very optimistic about how this would work.
Make it incredible.
Hey.
But it's good for, it's good for this area. Just highlight these all out.
You baseball player?
I was. I was
Not the best.
I was like, I was like,
It's perfect on her.
I don't know if I played part of
It's not generally, yeah, I spent my weekend in hockey. Yeah, exactly, it's just frozen. Thanks for coming. Well, you better, how to leave those.
Yeah, I should have told you.
Oh, so Chuck, what I
I would say it's not all that much.
I just wanted to make sure there was nothing else you guys need. I know, I'm like, my dirty coffee. Drink it all day.
As long as we do, I just got over it, I just got one.
Yeah, oh no.
I just shook our hands, sure, I got it, I washed your hands, honestly, that was the worst virus I got.
My kid's 2 weeks in.
It starts your sore throat, and then your head, and then your screws.
Yeah.
Anyhow, no, you want us to keep it as close as we can.
Yes. I mean, again, we're hoping you'll come back.
Yeah.
The economic development meeting, and then really what we want is, council has questions, we're ready to see that when you guys are here, we can have a more fulsome discussion. So they've got, half an hour worth of questions. So what is this? What does that look like? What's this? All of that kind of stuff. Back to council.
That's the way it works.
And then we're gonna go to the meeting. They're gonna make a recommendation. At the November meeting, which then based on the guidelines, it's another monthly session to get to the December council meeting, and that is when we cut off, to re-enter back to renew that agreement before. Ready to start? So I'm trying to be very specific.
Okay, we'll continue on with our agenda.
So that's on your.
Next on the agenda is delegations and presentations. First, we'll begin with George Horton with the Wiltse Creek Marshland Revitalization. Please approach the podium.
So just this way? Nope. Which button do I use? Oh, there we go. No? Can I go back?
No, so George, you don't have control. Just let me know when.
Oh, I see, okay.
Sorry
Okay.
about that.
I'll just put that over here then. Okay. So, I guess go to the first slide. So this all began, I was talking to Bob Griffin one time, and he got me interested in the revitalization of Wiltse Creek. So what I did was I got a hold of some people from the Federation of Agriculture who are also interested in this. That's been going on with 30 years for them. Bob Griffin's been interested for about 40 years. Oh, am I doing something wrong?
Just put your microphone up a little bit more so it's a little clearer. Thanks, George.
How's that?
There we go.
Is that loud?
That's
Usually I'm pretty loud. So anyway, we got the Federation of Agriculture together. We got some environmentalists together from the old environmental committee from the last council. We looked over the reports from the Cataraqui Regional Conservation Authority that looked at water depth and flow. And what we did at our very first meeting is we established our goals, and we made sure they were front and center in every meeting after that. The goals are, we want to revitalize the marshland and bring it back to a living state. Right now it's basically a sewer, and nothing can live in there. We also want to allow water to move more freely through the area because it will help the farmers. Right now it's backing up on some of the farmland. Next slide. So this is an aerial view of the area we're interested in. You can see where Wiltse Creek's coming in to get an Opry River. The shaded area is where the problem is. The silt has been building up over the years. It's just formed a layer of water and nothing can live in there. Next slide. So the first person we brought in was Murray Hall from the Ottawa Energy. He discussed water levels and how they are controlled by the dams. He suggested that we needed to bring in CRCA, MNFR, and Ducks Unlimited to help develop a plan. So after discussions with these groups, we determined the best way to move forward was to channel and to have fingers coming through to allow the water to start moving freely again. Next slide. So the next organization we went to was the MNFR. We went to their office in Kimful, and they felt in order to get permitted, we had to decide who actually owned the river bottom. the creek bottom. They've got patents down, it was determined as owned by Crown land, and so we could go ahead with permits from that aspect. The only concern with that is that the fingers running out, we can't establish who owns them until we actually say where the fingers are going to go, because we just don't know yet. Next slide. So let's look at what is actually happening in that marshland. Right now, nothing lives there. The flora and fauna are gone. There used to be muskrats there was trapping going on, there's no trapping at this point. There used to be fishing in that area, commercial and recreational, that's gone. There was a bullhead operation at one point, that's done. There's no fish there to get. Now, interestingly enough, there used to be blackbirds coming out of there. When I was milking cows, you would see blackbirds horizon to horizon for about 10 minutes, and now there's nothing. Now that's it. As a crop farmer, I most certainly want to see blackbirds back, but it sure shows what's going on. The biggest issue in the marshland is phage mites. Phage mites have established themselves in there. They put roots down into the creek bottom, and they're holding everything in place. And that's why it's been called the bog all these years, because it's just holding all that silt there. So what we're hoping to do is channel and put fingers through and open that up, get the phage mites out so the water can start moving again. The municipal drains are going to have silt traps cleaned in 2019, and this is to meet CRC requirements, because they're not going to allow us to clean out the marshland and revitalize it if the silt's going to come right back in again. So they're going to be cleaned out, and I think they're going to add some extra silt traps. The next slide. So the next meeting, we had a CRCA, and they listed the permit requirements that were necessary to complete phase 1. And what phase 1 is just making sure that we can do it, getting the studies done, getting all the permits in place, and that's all we're looking for at this point. We're probably looking 2 to 5 years before we actually start to work on this project. Okay. So then Ducks Unlimited actually said that they were interested in this project, and they advised that they'd like to get involved. Ducks Unlimited has done a lot of these projects before, and they have some money to invest in it down the road, but not on phase 1. Now also, the contractor, Dennis Shantz, advised us that they're going to be doing elevation checks this summer that would be necessary for CRCA requirements. That said, they were going to be done whether we asked for this or not. So slide 8. Okay, just bring that back down just a little bit. Okay, so the summary of the work required. This is what CRCA has asked us to do before we can move forward with the second phase. Now, interestingly enough, each one of these builds on the next. So the project plan has to be done before the environmental impact plan. And I'll a few slides later explain why that's important. But those are the things that have to be done before we can move forward. Next slide. So these are the groups that have expressed an interest. You'll notice that Gordon Oakey from the township's been involved, and he's been very interested in what's going to be done with it. We have Federation of Agriculture with Al Whitman with us tonight. We have environmentalists, we have Ducks Unlimited, and all the organizations we were talking about before. Next slide. So what comes next? Next slide after that. So what we did is we had to get some projected costs of what it's going to be to do phase 1. And we went to Mike Dakin, and because we couldn't just go off half-cocked and say, well, we want money. Mike gave us some estimates, and I'm taking the highest estimate of the various things. It's going to be up $22,000, but we put another $3,000 in there to pad it out just in case. But that said, back to the other one, you have to go back, but in order to do it, each one builds upon the other. So all we really need to get started is maybe $4,000 or $5,000 maximum, and if one doesn't go through, then we can't proceed. So we can only do them in sequence. Next slide. So our request from council. What we are is a group of individuals, and at this point we need the support of council to get grants. It will be up to I'm assuming the staff to decide which would be the best route to go, I'm not sure just what the routes are, but I'm sure council can come up with that. We are asking for endorsement from council. We're also asking to help us with grant writing. That said, we have a lot of expertise on our group that all we need to be done is point in the right direction. If we can know where to go, we can do the legwork, we can look things up, we can write the grants, But we need a professional in there to help us work through that part of it. And I've heard we have a good grant writer. So, last slide. The Wiltse Creek Marshland's been an issue for going on probably 50 years or more. I can remember my great-grandfather, he was involved in this trying to get the water levels down, and we're right back here again 4 generations later asking for the same thing again. Okay, we have been lucky to have both environmental and agricultural community arrive at a consensus of what should be done. It's the first time I can remember that they came together and had the same goals. Your worship, council members, interested guests, this is an opportunity for council. This is something that's gone on for a lot of administrations, never been solved. This council has the potential to go down as the council that solved this problem. This could be a feather in your cap. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Horton. So the motion that's about to be put on the floor, moved by Councillor maybe seconded by Councillor Jameson, that the committee of the whole recommends that council endorse the Wiltse Creek Marshland Revitalization Project by providing township staff resources to assist the working group in the preparation of the grant applications. Discussion on this motion. Councillor Maybe.
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Horton, I was wondering if you're able to give us a time frame expected for this project, from the start to end, what time frame it might take if you get all your grants and everything, all your ducks in a row, no pun intended.
I was waiting for that.
And also the many partners that you have listed here, are they all going to participate in your program? Again, with some.
We have meetings, not necessarily every month, but we do have meetings when necessary. We've had all the MFRA, we've had CRCA, Ducks Unlimited, all participating. They would be definitely interested in being involved. That said, phase 1 is probably going to take a year. This is not a short-term project. I was talking to Murray Hall, and he said, you're probably looking at 2 to 5 years to get this done. But on the other hand, this has been going on for 50 years or more. Bob Griffin, he's passionate about this, and I guess some of that passion is rubbed off on me. But it's not going to be a short-term project.
Any further, Councillor Cody?
Thank you, Your Worship, to Mr. Horton. This, you said it's a 2 to 5 year project to get started?
No, to finish. I'm assuming about a year to get the phase 1 done, depending upon whether we get grants, depending upon how the assessments go. So it's not a I can't say exactly how long that part's going to be, but Murray Hall said probably 2 to 5 years in order to get it.
Councillor Cody, follow.
I have a couple of follow-up questions, Madam Mayor. Number one, you mentioned $5,000, and there's a upper limit of $25,000. What is it you're looking for to get started?
We're looking for we would take 25,000 if we can get it, but we're looking for probably about 5,000 in order to get the first assessments done. Because one concern is if, let's say, one of the assessments doesn't go well and we can't move forward, we could end up with $20,000 and can't move forward. But I'm hoping we can get to 25,000.
And my last question is the township the only one providing financial input? And if so, who is administrating the money and looking after any such funds?
We're not asking the township for money at this time. We are asking for council endorsement, and we are asking for staff support. We will take money from the township if it's offered. There's no question about that. But we have other sources that we're looking. That's why we're looking for the grants, is to go to government organizations that would be involved in. As far as the second phase goes, Ducks Unlimited has done these projects before, and it's something that they would definitely be interested in participating in. We're also looking to Federation of Agriculture for some financial backing on this, and we have some other sources too.
Any further questions, Councillor Rowell?
Thank you, Your Worship. Actually, George has answered a couple of my questions regarding identifying potential funding. I think you touched on a couple of areas there. And just what is the area that we're considering here, George? I'm not that familiar with Wiltse Creek.
Can you bring up the one with the map on it? I think it's the third slide in. Oop, down, right there. So, Wiltse Creek, you have Mignault Lake, and the area you're seeing where the light shaded is Mignault River. Wiltse Creek goes into Black Creek, which is where the drainage projects are, the Smith Bolger drain. I also have a drain there myself. Wiltse Creek goes on through up to Mignault Lake. Charleston Lake, I'm sorry. It goes up to Charleston Lake and then comes down through to,
From Charleston to Gananoque.
Yes, from Charleston to Mignault Lake. And the problem is not, the silting is not just from the farmers. There's a lot of other factors involved with that silting too. Cottagers, they don't have a 90-meter setback. There's a lot of other issues there rather than farming. Now, one thing I didn't bring up is we were looking at agencies involved. I've been talking to the watershed people for Barbara King, and I had her listed as one of the interested parties. She says, we don't deal with this kind of stuff. We deal with cleaning water and working upstream. And she said, take us off, because that's not what they deal with. And that was one of the problems before, is that I feel that the goals were never being looked at properly. The goals were always, let's get the work done upstream, and then let's look at the Wiltse Creek revitalization. But our goal was to get that revitalization done, to get that marshland back to a living state, because right now, nothing lives there. And, what it's all about is bringing things back.
Any further follow-up?
Just a quick follow-up, George, do any of our 7 municipal drains empty into the Wiltse Creek?
Yes.
And do they therefore, because we are looking after them for the next few years, so are we introducing sort of cross-purpose there?
I think they're two separate issues at this point. The municipal drain ends at, I think it's the bridge along Russell Road. And I think it goes a little bit beyond that, but I don't think they actually touch anything down that far. It's not, well, you would know better than me, Adam. It doesn't touch on any of that. So this is a separate, because this question came up, whether this should be on the municipal drain or not. And I don't think it is involved in that at all.
Any further questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Do I need to restate the motion before I do that? I'll restate the motion that the committee of the whole recommends that council endorse the Wiltse Creek Marshland Revitalization Project by providing township staff resources to assist the working group in the preparation of grant applications. All those in favor of the motion as presented? All those opposed? Carried. Thank you. Next on the agenda is Charlie Mignault from the St. Lawrence Corridor Economic Development Commission, and Mr. David Beatty as well. If you'd like to come to the podium and present, thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Worship, Smith Creek, Datsy, councillors. It's a pleasure to be able to update you on the activities of the corridor. The corridor is a fairly new organization. Our first board meeting was held July 2017. The first 6 months were incorporation, website, development of brochures, searching, sending ads out for an industrial commissioner, and of course hiring an industrial commissioner. We hired Charlie Mignault on February 1st of 2018. So in the last year and a half, Charlie has been out beating the bushes for new industry. And the only job of the corridor is commercial industrial attraction of new and existing industries. Attracting new industries is a long sales cycle. We're not buying gum or a t-shirt here. You're trying to convince people to either build an addition to their existing facilities or move their existing facilities to Eastern Ontario. We're very happy with the progress that we've had to date, and our pipeline is full of exciting prospects. As you listen tonight, and I'll introduce our members, Charlie Mignault is our Industrial Commissioner. Bob Anderson is the Vice Chair. By the way, I'm the Chair of the Corridor Commission. And Michael Adam Crick, through his company up and to the right, provides both administrative and strategic support to the Industrial Commissioner and the Corridor. But as you listen to the presentation tonight, I'd like you to ask yourself one question. Where else can you spend $30,000 of taxpayer money in economic development and get a better return? I'll introduce Michael Adam Crick.
So,
Thank you, David. And I have the enviable position of being here after somebody who said they're not here for money, that we are here for money. And we will get to that rather quickly. So first of all, your worship, members of council, one of my first jobs that I like to do when I come to council, thank you for your support over the past 2.5 years financially. Financial support is important, but also you've supported us intellectually with your worship serving on our board of directors and Mr. George Horton serving on the board of directors as well. We'll get a little bit into our board composition. At an early stage of an organization, it is very important that we have strong governance principles and we put strategic planning in place so that Charlie can do his job. And thank you for allowing those two members to be parts of our board. We are here today to discuss the financial commitment, which is $4 per capita. So $4 per members of your community, a significant amount when we're talking about taxpayers' money. Currently, your contract expires on the middle of next year, and we're looking for you to consider re-upping your contract. And I do apologize, we did not provide handouts, so some of the, is a bit of a eye chart up here. David talked about what a sales cycle looks like. So this is commercial industrial sales, very, very long sales cycle, and I want to compare this a little bit. So if everything goes perfectly well, it takes about 30 months to make a sale, 20 to 30 months. 18 to 20 months. And if you look at the chart that we put up top, if everything went perfectly from the day Charlie started in the job, he would probably close his first deal right now. That's assuming he had contacts in his first month, so no learning curve. Very long sales cycle, and for those of us in sales, not everything goes right all the time. We are the strength of our members. When I first went around and pitched this concept, it was about how do we take the strength of all 7 municipalities across the St. Lawrence corridor and pool those strengths together, offsetting some of the opportunities each of us have. Some of us have land, some of us for residential, some of us have land for industrial, some of us have wastewater facilities. So these 7 municipalities each represent the corridor, with each member municipality putting 2 members on the board from an ex officio position, plus the partnership of St. Lawrence College as a non-voting board member. And I know we're tight for time. As much as a strategic planner, I like mission, vision, and values. I'm going to skip over this a little bit. We're glad to provide additional information. Suffice it to say, we're here to create more jobs in the community and better jobs in the community through industrial and commercial attraction. Strategic priorities, one of the ones that we focused on for the early days is the attraction priority. Fully understanding that some of the stakeholder work that we should do was not done as well as it could be. We do our best. We are an organization of one, and the one will be speaking next. A lot of collateral material. We follow it very, very closely. We have become a global brand as we track the website, and Charlie's out talking to people. We do see hits back to our website, and we are distributing information on a global basis, but even though we do focus more Ontario and northern the U.S. We hear lots of things about what we are and what we are not. What the corridor is a lead attraction and a sales organization. So the words economic development are talked about a lot. We are not actually an economic development organization. Economic development has a lot to do with planning. It has a lot to do with housing. It has a lot to do with understanding people in a different way. We are a sales organization. We're here to attract commercial and industrial industry to your location. Once more, graphically representing what this buyer's process looks like. So if you map out the process from the time that we become aware of a prospect, we contact them the first time, move them through our sales pipeline, and then we have what's a close, and we can argue about what a close is. To you and I, a close is actually new employees working in that plant and a sign up on the door. It's about 400 days when everything goes right, permitting, etc. And that is about the time frame that Charlie's been in the job so far. The other thing that I have to be cautious that I say this over and over again is when I'm speaking about the corridor, I am not here to convince you about regionalism. If you do not believe in regionalism, you probably can't buy into what we're trying to sell. Regionalism is the opportunity for us to pool our resources financially, intellectually, but also the infrastructure that we have across the region so that we can all benefit from a centralized sales process. Our businesses that we deal with don't know political boundaries, so why should we as salespeople, and why should we even as politicians? They are important, but that's not how businesses make decisions. So regionalism is the future, whether it is at the council floor or is on the sales cycle. Regionalism is the future, and it becomes very, very important. And we're a proven representative of regionalism. Charlie's going to show you some graphs and charts and maps of the companies that he's touched, and some even in your region. It is very regional in the way we've dispersed. And it is very important to have your municipality continue to participate. Financially, it is not a small amount, and we understand that when you're committing constituents' dollars, it is very, very important, and taxpayers' dollars do not come easily. We also need you as a part because you have resources. We have the resources of the board members you allow to serve, and their intellectual capacity is very, very important to us. You have resources in your land and your infrastructure and your access to other parts of the region that we just don't have. You're a very, very important part of your region. So thank you for your participation, and we trust that you will consider re-upping your contract with us. And I'm now going to hand it over to Charlie Mignault, who will talk numbers, companies, and the progress that he's made over his short tenure. So thank you for your patience.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Thanks very much. Please, if you have any questions, if there's anything you'd like to say, any comments, please come forward and do so. I'd appreciate it. It'll only make for a better presentation, I hope. Okay, so why do we need the St. Lawrence Corridor Economic Development Commission? It is, I think, an important question. It's a question I want to address, albeit very briefly. What we know is that tomorrow's economy is not the same as today's, and is certainly much different than it was 50 years ago or even a decade ago. Much has changed, especially since the Great Recession in 2008, 2009. The Brant Planch economy, which was the bedrock of the Eastern Ontario economy, has vanished. 23 multinationals have left our area in the last few decades. And we need to understand what we need to do next. What skills, what kinds of companies, what kinds of capabilities need to be in the region in order for us to succeed and have a better standard of living and a more competitive approach to global competitiveness. That's what we're talking about. This slide may be difficult to see, so I'll just briefly explain it. What we're dealing with right now is a loss of jobs and people in Eastern Ontario. And you can see this slide shows since the recession till last year, various areas in Canada. In other words, various types of cities in Canada. And I wish it was a little bigger. I'm not sure you can see that very well. Can you? No. Suffice to say, this bottom line is rural Eastern Ontario, which is flat in terms of both population and job creation. And that's a central problem. What we're seeing is 6 municipalities in Canada that are really responsible for 90% of the new jobs since the recession. Okay, so that's an alarming trend, both in terms of new job creation and population. And if you look at that, what we see is that that workers with less than a university degree are the ones that, and a college degree, are those that are suffering. They're being displaced and they're having trouble finding new jobs. And that's exactly what's happening across Eastern Ontario. That over the next decade is going to become much more acute. There's going to be over 1.5 million workers displaced by automation alone in Canada. Okay, that's over 8% of our workforce. Okay, you're already seeing it anecdotally when you go into Tim Hortons and you hit for the kiosk to get a coffee, or you go to McDonald's. Right, you're going to see trucks that are not going to have drivers in the next 5 years across North America, and things like that. So we're in for a real change in the workforce. So what we're seeing is flat population growth, all right, and in rural Ontario, and what you're seeing is an aging workforce in Eastern Ontario, as those two graphs you can see there depicts. The problem is, when you look at this from a competitive profile, cities like Ottawa, the GTA, Waterloo, etc., are finding growth and are finding new jobs. How do we compete to keep our standard of living, to keep our tax base, to be sustainable into the future? That's really the crucial question we're dealing with right now. So what we know is that these lines have been diverging since the recession. We know that they continue to. We know that automation will challenge us more and more in Eastern Ontario and in the manufacturing economy. We know that workers with less education are going to suffer the most. And we know that local leaders, business leaders such as the ones who are here with us today, and politicians such as yourselves, and people like me need to come up with a strategy so that our people have quality jobs and can continue to enjoy a quality of life that they've expected and that they frankly deserve. And so what we also know is that the best, most forward-looking businesses right now in North America are looking for places that have talented people, that have educational institutions that are strong and vibrant. Places that can attract people around the world because of the beauty of the area and the culture of the area. We know that about these companies, and we know that is exactly what our competitive advantage is here in this area. And so we're hopeful about the future, and we think we have a strong strategy. So our strategy is also linked to the attraction of new jobs, new forward-looking companies. We have a very strong strategy that looks at some key areas in the economy that have been historically strong, some not so, but we expect a lot in the future. So we're looking at the agribusiness. The agribusiness is under stress, but there's great opportunities in the agribusiness, and there's great opportunities in Eastern Ontario. We're looking at chemistry and biochemistry because we have strong assets that have been here a long time, and there's new bioindustrial businesses that are looking for a home right now, and we have a number of them in our sales pipeline. We're in the process of landing 2 or 3 of them right now. One has an option on 72 acres in Eastern Ontario, one of the companies we've been working with. So that's very exciting. Advanced manufacturing is an area that we've always been in. We've done well. We're going to continue to focus on advanced manufacturing. And those manufacturers that we're looking at are people who believe in AI, who believe in robotics, and who want to compete globally, and who are interested in an export business, because those are critical to our future. And finally, we know logistics and warehousing is an important element. Right now, I'm looking in this very neighborhood for an 80,000 square foot warehouse that needs refrigeration. That company has a contract with Frulac in Kingston and is managing fruit coming primarily from Quebec, but from other places as well. And so we know that's an area of interest for us. We know partnerships are essential. Working with the ecosystem that already exists with the economic developers in the area is essential. We do a lot of work with Bioindustrial Innovation Canada out of Sarnia and have an amazing partnership with that group. They're a referral center to us and also help us with some of our planning. Green Centre Canada, located in Kingston, is an excellent referral hub for us, and we've received a number of leads, many of them very good qualified leads from Green Centre Canada. Queen's and St. Lawrence College are partners. We try to find not only researchers and professors, but also spin-off businesses that are coming out of those institutions. And of course, we have tremendous partnerships with our local politicians. Steve Clark and Michael Barrett are huge supporters of us. We offer 6 defined services to companies that when we interact with them. We provide business intelligence to those companies. We know what companies are here. We have a very strong database. Our CRM is complete. We know what businesses are here, who's in their supply chain, what value chains exist, and how to connect them to the infrastructure. Partnerships are important, whether it's with political groups or with banks or with other organizations. We support them in that way in terms of advocacy as well. We write grants for organizations and businesses. We're writing a grant for 2 businesses in your municipality presently. We do site tours and familiarization tours for companies that come from all over the world to look in the area. We understand the area, the assets, and we can connect them to the right people and the right companies. And then finally, access to capital. We know rural areas suffer from the challenge of access to capital, and we have a very strong group within the corridor. We have people that have been in government. Mr. Beatty obviously is an investor of many businesses and is part of an angel investor network in the area. Michael Adam Crick is a former VP of a major bank, and we have really strong bench strength in this area. and we've helped a number of companies already looking for capital. So if you look at the companies we've helped so far, 35% of those companies have needed business intelligence help from us. 38% have been looking for partnership support, and 10 looking for advocacy support. 80% of them have asked us to take them and show them assets that are available here in Eastern Ontario. 15% of them have asked us to get them involved in other community organizations and community interests, and 86% of them have been looking for help with capital. This is a quick overview of some of the companies we've helped to reinforce the idea that we're helping companies across Eastern Ontario and across the corridor equally. Whoa. Wow. Not sure what happened there. I think, can you set me up there, Vanessa, back where I left off? I'm coming close to the end here. Okay, I'll just get us through here. Any questions so far? So we're working with 36 companies in the sectors that I mentioned earlier, and they're at various stages. 3 of them are at the close stage right now. We also work with companies that we believe have scalability or that can transform and double their sales forces or double their revenues. And so we're working with a company close down the road here. Molecule is a company we've been helping with business consulting support and other support services. And a company, a sister company of theirs, Bushel, and a new company that's just starting out a brewing company as well that's deep into the agribusiness, for example. Just want you to be aware of the impact to tax revenues when you're like, so 2 of the companies I'm working with right now in this area, if you look at the potential for tax revenues are very high in the businesses that we're looking at, right? They have a big footprint, generally speaking. They're in the manufacturing or industrial space, generally speaking, and there's a large capital outlay, which produces strong tax revenues. Our achievements year to date, and I've been here just a little under a year and a half, we've held over 88 stakeholder engagements. I've conducted 225 business-to-business meetings, talking to potential clients coming or helping clients grow their business. We have 36 current opportunities that we're moving through the pipeline presently. We so far have been attributed 95 jobs to our work, and through other work with other organizations, we've helped find $1.3 million in grant investment for businesses in the region. And so really happy with the work we've done so far, and we believe this is going to be a very strong year as well. We know that. We have a number of companies that are in the end stages of their purchase and sale agreements. And I'll just finally, I'll finish off with saying this, that although there are a number of challenges, many I outlined early on in this talk, there's great optimism in the area. CanArm in Brockville, which is using robotics and AI, is doubling their footprint in Brockville at this moment. Burnbrae Farms is bringing on new lines of business presently. Giant Tiger picked our area recently and is expanding. Northern Cables in Brockville is expanding, and that's very exciting as well. And Amazon chose a new warehouse in Eastern Ontario as well, although it's just a little closer to Ottawa and not part of our area. But I think what it is indicative of the fact that companies are looking for geographic areas that have strong workforces, that have available land at a good cost, and that are in areas where their employees can enjoy a strong standard of living for years to come. And I think those are important elements in their decision making presently. So with that, I'll say thank you very much for the time. I apologize for going over a little bit on our time, and I appreciate any questions you might have, and I'd be glad to answer them.
So I'll put the motion on the floor and we can discuss this going forward. So motion's made by Councillor Jameson, seconded by Councillor Fody, that the committee of the whole thank Mr. Mignault for his presentation and recommends that council refer the matter of membership in the St. Lawrence Corridor Economic Development Commission to their EDC for their advice to council and to staff for the recommendation to council by November 4th, 2019. Any questions for Mr. Mignault and on his presentation? Councillor Burrell and then Councillor Maybe.
Thank you, and to you, your worship, thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming here this evening. I truly appreciate that. Mr. Mignault, just a question. In our township, we are three distinct areas. We have the Shield, we have the river, and we have agriculture. Government forces have seemed to force us away from industrialization in our township, except for the potential of agriculture. And having known Bob for some years and Bernray, are there projects or do you see potential for our township directly in the agribusiness?
Yeah, thanks. I don't know if I've turned my mic off, but that's a great question. We spend a lot of time, I think the agribusiness is one of the cornerstones of the economy in Eastern Ontario. And to answer your question, I guess forthright, yes, there are huge opportunities for the agribusiness. The agribusiness is consolidating, as you know, and we need to get smart about how we approach agriculture and what opportunities we select and support and what kind of companies should be in the ecosystem. So Burnbrae is a great example. It's continuing to create value-add products that they can ship further away and compete in other markets further away. And so, you know, their example is brilliant and is proof that not only can you have an agribusiness, but then that a food service business that keeps expanding. You know, they right now supply some amazing, you know, they supply Subway, I think they supply McDonald's, Loblaws, but they've got I think Wegmans in the US is one of their customers, and they keep on building new products and hiring new people and adding new engineering. And I think that's what's essential is the companies that are coming here and that I'm working with have a science and technology backbone, right? Molecule will have a science and technology backbone. And when you look at Bushel and some of those other opportunities, it's going to be around how to be able to farm in global climate change environments and how to do it successfully, you know. And a big part of that is how to bring capital here and how to capitalize these opportunities. And I think you're in a really wonderful situation, particularly this area, where there are people who have the capital to catalyze these opportunities. Many jurisdictions just don't have people with wealth in their neighborhood. I think that's a competitive advantage we have here as well. So I hope that answers your question somewhat.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Councillor Maybe.
Thank you, Your Worship. And sir, my next question is, what is the biggest stumbling block for our area that clientele have come to you, and what's our biggest asset that they've also given?
So I think the biggest opportunity or challenge, and I know Marnie is looking at it, and she's an expert in the area, is around the planning for industrial space and to have industrial parks or to have land that's prepared for an 80,000 square foot warehouse, things like that. Those opportunities are coming. They will continue to come. And that's a strategic decision, and I think you have really strong bench strength now here in the municipality to have professional staff that'll not only see that as a priority, but be able to enable those plans to move and accelerate at a pace that is demanded by businesses. So I think we need some more planning and some more space here. Yeah, absolutely. But I think that's being done and will be continued to be done, and you'll find creative solutions. One thing from dealing with Marnie already in that is the idea that we can plan quickly here, and we're highly motivated. We want to find quality jobs. We want young people to be able to find real jobs and real opportunities and real careers here if they so choose. And so I think you've got a staff here, an intelligent staff, an experienced staff, capable staff. And so I think that's your new asset, is that you've got people who know how to play this game and know how to manage a planning process effectively and quickly with integrity.
That's a very nice thing to say. Thank you very much.
Okay. No, that's
We'll take
just the
that
truth.
credit.
I mean, my background was, you know, I worked at Keystone Economic Development Corporation as a director there over a decade ago, and I do know more or less who's who in planning, and we know what kind of reputation certain communities have for either being enabling or overly prescriptive or completely ambivalent to development.
And just to add to Charlie's presentation, I think that the strategy that we have to take as a municipality to dovetail into what the corridor is doing, should we continue to move forward with this opportunity, I think that there's a lot more we can be doing with paying attention to things that make it a lot easier for people to decide to live here and work here, is we need to provide housing. We need to have more houses built. We need to get the connectivity on site. We cannot wait for other individuals to create this opportunity for us. It will be up to this council, it will be up to this township to make this happen in order to allow people like Charlie and the group at the St. Lawrence Corridor Project to actually bring those larger organizations to our area, specifically to our township, because connectivity is key, and people would love to live here, but if nobody's building spec homes or new homes, then it becomes more of a challenge, because housing is in a crisis right now. There's not enough of it. It's a problem. Deputy Mayor, you had a question?
I have comments and questions. Through you, Your Worship, most of these big companies have people on staff who do the research. They know the demographic. They know, you know, where they want to go and why they want to go there. So, you know, I guess what I'm trying to figure out is what you actually provide. I see a list of all these places, Bushel, Tweed. You know, how did you attract or assist in any of this? And further that, back to my first comment with the demographic of the companies, they normally, if they're looking to, you know, to buy into our community, the first person they talk to is a real estate agent. So, you know, how do you engage and you know, how do you value your service?
Yeah, okay. Great question, thanks, Councillor Lackey. So I think the first part of your question is, you know, they know what they're looking for, and I agree completely. They know what they're looking for. Typically, those site selectors or those subgroups within an organization that are responsible for development and growth, they do rely on consultants for a lot of that work. And oftentimes what will happen is, whether it's a site selector firm or a real estate firm or whatever firm they're partnering with, they'll have a set of criteria, and oftentimes they'll end up with a short list of 3 or 4 municipalities. And then they get down to the work of a tighter comparison of those municipalities and the features and benefits of each. And that becomes really a sales opportunity, but you need your business intelligence set up in advance for that, because typically you have short timelines with those people. So every municipality gets a chance to then provide data to the company or the site selector or the realtor. And so that's a big part of the competition. But the other question you're asking is more a marketing problem. You know, who is the real customer, and what value do we add to that customer? And so for my role, to answer your question, we're optimizing a website so that we're looking for realtors and looking for companies. We also work hard within the existing infrastructure or the ecosystem here. What we know is since the Great Recession, about 85 to 90% of the new jobs are small to medium-sized enterprises. So in other words, General Motors isn't growing very much, Parmalat isn't growing very much, Procter & Gamble isn't growing very much. Most of them are fairly flat in terms of new growth of jobs and new sites. What we're seeing the economy in Ontario be propelled is by two things. Small to medium-sized enterprises coming and growing, that's an entrepreneurism. And so we know that that's what's driving the economy right now in Ontario. So it's how do you get a hold of those customers? And we do that with our website SEO, we do that with social media, which is such as LinkedIn and other vehicles like that, which is low cost, low risk. And we have a strong ecosystem here. A number of those opportunities you're citing are us working the ecosystem, our board, myself, our partners. That's exactly why I partnered with, for example, Green Centre Canada. Two of the clients we've got purchasing on the Maitland site right now were referrals from Green Centre Canada. So it's knowing the infrastructure, knowing the players in the environment, and who might fit into their supply chain regionally. And that's our job, and that's what I consider business intelligence. And then we have a very, very, very controlled and deliberate sales process that we put people through, including a rigorous qualification criteria. So because we only have so much time, we have to make sure that those potential clients are well qualified, and then we move them through a sales process so that we understand the buyer center, we understand their needs, and we can move them along very efficiently. And so far, we've got 36 of those high qualified leads in our system. So I hope that answers your
Any
question.
follow-up?
Yeah, and at OU, we have very qualified staff, so I guess my question is why, if they want to develop in this municipality, why wouldn't they come to Marnie and get all the answers firsthand, rather than a flow-through where things get lost in translation, perhaps? And we have our economic development committee here as well. So, again, what is it that you have that we don't?
Okay, the bottom line, so there's two things. Typical economic development, I think, focuses somewhere between 80 and 90% of its effort internally, whether it's planning, labor force, tourism, skill development, all these other issues. We're 100% focused on proactive sales and marketing. So the difference is what you're saying, exactly in your question, is the answer for you, which is if someone phones. But what we've done for too long in Eastern Ontario is wait for the phone to ring, right? That's our problem. We need to be much more aggressive in the sales and marketing approach and attract new companies to the area that will fit into this economy and grow here and create quality jobs. So that's the essential difference. Okay, thank you for the
Any
question.
further questions? Councilor Cody?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a couple of questions. In the last 10 years, do you have the numbers of what percentage of companies or businesses that tapped into your resources came to this area?
Sorry, go ahead, Your
The
Worship.
corridor's only been in existence for 2 years. So you had said 10 years.
Right. But I was going back as far as a lot of those 10-year companies have a growth period afterward, initial startup.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I understand your
Okay,
question. Sorry.
of all the companies and businesses in your mandate, the 2-year period you've been in business, what percentage of these companies do you feel are using your resources? You must have a handle as if there's 100 active companies out there. Are there 10% tapping into your resources or 90?
Oh, I see, of all the companies that have moved here recently. Well, that's an excellent question. I don't have an exhaustive inventory of every company. So I've been around in this job for about 1.5 years, and it's an interesting way to look at it. To be frank, I haven't tried to keep an inventory of every company that's come to the jurisdiction. Although, having said that, it would be a very interesting thing to know.
Okay, thank you. I have one follow-up question. It was mentioned earlier, 400 days plus from the time they start till they open the door. How many acres of industrial land do you have ready for companies ready to come into your jurisdiction right now?
How many acres are available across eastern Ontario?
No, that are ready in the corridor region.
Yeah, sorry, that's, well, we've got at least 300 acres that are ready for service, that are serviced and ready to go. And possibly more depending on the flexibility of the client to timing. Because there's some land that's somewhat ready, but not completely ready. Thank you.
Councillor Jameson?
Through you, Your Worship, just like to thank you for all the information. Appreciate it very much. Learning on as we go. I do have a question, or I do have some concerns with respect to the motion. So once the presentation is over, before we move ahead with the motion, I'd like to make a point or two. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Any further questions or comments in regards to the presentation? Councillor Grau?
Through you, Your Worship, if we were to continue with the wonderful services that I believe that you can offer us, the close is, can you offer comments on looking for agricultural areas that can be driven in this region?
Oh, absolutely. We're highly committed. I appreciate the question, and certainly there are pressing opportunities, and sometimes they're not directly related to agriculture, but tangentially related, like this warehouse that we're looking for in this area right now, because it's a food service, it's sort of ancillary food services, and so thank you for the question.
Okay, so Councillor Jameson, would you like to make your comments in regards to the motion that's currently on the floor?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, I've said this before, and it's more about, let me put it this way. The challenge I have with looking at where we invest, quote unquote, economic development money, is that I'm not sure if we really have a firm grasp on what it is we have to offer with respect to our own asset base. So as a result, we have investments that we're spending money on tourism, way, we're spending money internally through the tax base, although we are not writing the check, but our taxpayers are paying for the economic development initiatives out of the county. So we have a number of areas where money from our township is going. Before I got on council, my observation of all of this was that we were kind of a mile wide and an inch deep with respect to how we go about this. So my suggestion is, and I believe I've made this before, I don't think the motion is broad enough. We're asking the Economic Development Commission to take a look at the St. Lawrence corridor investment, economic development investment, and I think there needs to be the context of all of the investments that we are making that we would consider to be economic development in the broadest sense. So all of the things that are invested in by the taxpayer in this township, and I'm going to repeat myself by saying that includes the county, that is where we really need a little more intel as to whether we're being strategic enough and how we're going about it. So this is not in any way a criticism of a particular investment. It is the need to find out who we are, what we should be doing, and how much we should invest at a time when we know going down the road, very soon we are going to see some really major challenges in our own tax base with respect to income for various reasons we've discussed. So I would like to see the motion amended somehow to reflect the need for the Economic Development Committee to look at all of the investments we make both internally and externally to ensure that we are making the best possible investment, and also to understand what it is we are offering with respect to our assets. I'm not talking about the township-owned assets. I'm talking about the strength of our agribusiness, the strength of our tourism business, whatever's out there. Do we know what we're selling, and what are the vehicles that we need to invest in to maximize our opportunity?
Councillor Jameson, I might make a suggestion that you don't necessarily disagree with the motion, but maybe there's an additional motion to be made at a later date, another notice of motion, that the Economic Committee, Development Committee, look at all, the entire economic development budget as it relates to all projects, rather than trying to amend this, because this basically is saying we're asking the Economic Development Committee for their advice to council and staff for a possible recommendation to council for November 4th. So if you were to make a notice of motion for next meeting, it would do the same. I think would accomplish the same thing as what you're asking, rather than try to amend this to your liking. Is that?
Your Worship, I appreciate that. Procedurally, I understand what you're saying. I would not want to see us make a decision on one thing out of context with everything else.
Okay.
That's my concern. How we approach it, I defer to your judgment.
Does anybody else have any other suggestions in regards to that? Ms. Goodman?
I would only like to add that at the Economic Development Committee, as Councillor Bodie would be aware, we've been having some discussions about organizations that we're working with and some of the investments that we're making. So I do believe we can at least come up with it wouldn't be very deep, I will confess to that, but at least paint a picture perhaps of where some of the money is currently being allocated, partnerships. And I know, for example, I did just receive a report from the Gananoque Visitor Center vis-a-vis tourism and what that investment did over the 2020 summer. So we may be able to pull some of that information and probably have it available for the upcoming Economic Development Committee meeting so it can inform their recommendation perhaps. So are you satisfied with, okay. I don't want to bully you one way or the other, that was my intention. I just thought rather than try to amend the motion that's on the floor currently, that we could have a separate motion to task the Economic Development Committee with more strategic.
Your Worship, I'll chat with the clerk about next steps.
Okay, lovely. So the motion that's on the floor, any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion on the floor? All those opposed? Carried. Thank you, gentlemen. We appreciate your time and your consideration, and it was valuable information.
Thank you all.
Okay, so we're going to start to move through this agenda. Next motion on the floor. Sorry. Okay, so number 5 is staff reports. Moved by Councillor Fleming, seconded by Councillor Maybe, that the Committee of the Whole recommends that Council adopt the Transportation Master Plan and Active Transportation Master Plan as a guiding document. Any discussion on this motion? Councillor Correll and then Deputy Mayor Lackey.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. In reading through the study, thank you very much for having it done. And I just would question because it comes up in budgeting as well, the cost of Jesse Street being 11.5 million. Who prepared that number? And has it just been escalated from 10.5 based upon some number, or who put that together and how accurate do you think it is?
This is the active transportation plan. This is not the. He just got ahead of himself. Deputy Mayor, you had a question in regards to this?
Yes, through you, Your Worship. In going through it, most of it was pretty good. It got pretty dry at times, but I noticed some of the things, like bridges, for instance. We have to have an engineer look at our bridges, I believe, every 2 years. I don't know what their qualification is, or where they sort of get off telling us what we should do with bridges and a few of the other things, roads, when it's above, I think it's above their pay grade. You have to take this report with a grain of salt, I believe. I think it's mediocre at best, but I do appreciate that the majority of it, so I'll be voting to accept it as a living document that can be changed.
Any further comments or questions in regards to the transportation? And I'll recognize Councilor Daly.
Thank you, Your Worship. One of the challenges I have, and this has been something that I noted before, is that we got this on Friday and had to have done for tonight. Too many activities to try to read a 181-page document. My quick ask is, what has changed from the original document, if anything? And what has changed from the original document, if we have that?
Would this be the time you'd like to call on Mr. Schultz?
Actually, that's for the next one.
That's for the next one? Sorry, I thought, that's okay. We're confused up here. That's fine. Ms. Goodman, if you'd like to.
That's okay, I think we all have a little case of the Mondays. Earlier this year, we presented the draft transportation and active transportation master plans, and it was posted online for a duration of about 6 to 8 weeks. We received no comments for revisions, other than a love letter of support from our local health unit. So based on that, comments typically when we post and draft, for example, the process that we're using for the recreation master plan, they all went back to the consultant. At that point, we had a discussion. So given that there was no additional comment, no changes have been made to the document.
Thank you, that's what I really wanted, because again, as I said, and that's another thing we'll take offline, but our duration of information, or the amount of information we have to process in a short order.
Councilor Foley?
Thank you, Your Worship. I think the key follows up on Deputy Mayor Lackey's comments. This is merely a guide. We aren't confined or restricted to anything here. It's extensively looked into, well prepared, and as you said, Kim had been forthcoming to us for 6 or 8 weeks in the middle of the summer. It does make for a dry read, but it's still nonetheless interesting. But I think we need to just keep in mind it's merely a guide, that's all it is.
Any further discussion of this motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify. All those opposed? Carried. Next on the agenda, moved by Councilor Foley, seconded by Councilor Jameson, that the committee of the whole recommends that council declare Lansdowne Community Hall revitalization as a priority project for funding under the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program, and that council directs staff to submit an application. This is the conflict that I believe you declared.
No, that's it.
Is that the infrastructure?
Infrastructure Ontario for the camp.
Oh, I apologize.
No.
It says Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program.
No, that
It's different, okay, as long as, I just want to make sure. Infrastructure program that council directs staff to submit an application. Ms. Goodman, you would like to speak to this?
Absolutely. I mean, this project for me has been a long time coming. I think since I started in 2012, I've been looking at options and opportunities for our Lansdowne Community Hall. Of course, once we got through the facilities master planning process in 2016, things kind of really started to amp up when we had an understanding a little bit more about the building and recommendations that had come forward. At that point in time, the direction was provided to staff. Some of the staff are no longer with us, and as such, I kind of took more of a lead role in the project, but we've worked with Schultz and come up with a really exciting concept for the Lansdowne Community Hall. Now, I know that this isn't the first time that council has seen these drawings, but prior to moving ahead with a full funding application, as indicated in the report for several millions of dollars, I wanted to bring this before council one last time with our consultant. And I understand that there are some questions about some of the costing and that they would be prepared to answer that as well.
Councilor Burrell, I think you asked your question already, but if you'd like to rephrase again.
Thank you, Your Worship. And yes, I apologize for that miscue. I am curious about that 11.5 million because it influences our budgeting thoughts. And secondly, I am concerned a little bit about the word priority. It would be, without a doubt, the biggest project we would undertake in some time, I would imagine. And it will go through, I imagine, Infrastructure Canada and Infrastructure Ontario. However, by making it priorities, what are we excluding? We have projects that need doing in Lyndhurst, we have bridges, we have other projects. Are we asking that staff put 99% of their time onto this? I don't quite understand the wording.
That's all right. Ms. Goodman, if you'd like to maybe explain why that term is used and the way the report was written.
Thank you for the question, through your worship. Essentially what we're asking is that council declares that this is the priority project for this particular round of funding, and I apologize that I wasn't more clear. It's because it is the closest that we have to a shovel-ready project versus like the pedestrian bridge, for example, in Lyndhurst, which I know was in front of you recently. We still have a lot of work before we're ready to pitch for funding for that. We need to do the environmental assessment, heritage assessment. We need to come up with a design. We need to look at what the actual engineering would look like and what the costing would look like. This project is ready to go for this particular funding round, and thus the wording priority project.
One follow-up. Did I read that the November something, November 16, 18, is that the deadline for Infrastructure Canada, Infrastructure Ontario?
Through your worship, yes, sir, it is.
Okay, so do you want to ask questions now, or would you like the consultant to come up and talk about the costing first? And maybe we can answer some questions prior. Councilor Jameson?
I just wanted to say, in the context of Councilor Burrell's comments, that the Lyndhurst discussion also includes the county. So you've got the whole, once you get into multi-jurisdictional issues, the years just pile on. So we may have an opportunity right here, right now, as opposed to that, which is going to take some time.
I think the point is well taken, though, that there's room for other projects to be dealt with and moved along in the process, and there will be other funding opportunities. But as Ms. Goodman had said, this one's shovel ready because the research and the majority of the costing has been done, but has been since recently updated by our consultant. So, Deputy Mayor?
And to further that, I mean, we will not be going forward unless we get the funding, so it's that's simple.
So, if Mr. Schultz, would you be able to come to the podium and give your overview so that we have a better idea of what we're in for here?
Yes, thank you.
There we go. Okay. That's
Right,
fine.
okay, can everyone hear me? Thank you. So what I have tonight is a copy of what was in your council agenda package. And I'll give a kind of high-level overview of that, and then I will go back to parts of it where there are questions. The one thing that's not in your package is a video walkthrough, which I'd like to show you, give you maybe a better sense of what the community center might be like. So I'll skip over these parts which really describe the history of the project and some of the consultation that has been done. This project did come to the previous council at the end of 2017 where it was approved, and there were some, at that time, some minor additions and revisions that were suggested. So just a quick overview. On the right is the existing community center, and on the left is the proposed addition. This is a cross-section through the existing community center, which is in white on the right-hand side, and the proposed addition. And as you know, the existing building is, the lower level is half a floor below grade, the upper level is half a floor above grade. The proposed addition is at grade, and there is an elevator located in a way that will provide full access to the 2 floors of the existing facility. The lower floor of the existing community center, there are a number of meeting rooms in a number of different sizes. There are storage rooms for the various groups that use them. There are men's and women's washrooms, and there are a number of technical, mechanical, electrical rooms, etc. And there's also a home for the archives. And on the left, which is at grade, is the addition to the community center. And that includes in pink, a multi-purpose community hall with a number of functions, a full commercial kitchen on the left in yellow, and then in blue, a kind of common lobby. And then you can see the community hall. In this configuration in pink, that shows 4 pickleball courts. This one on the left is a full basketball court, a couple of half basketball courts, or 2 community events could be held simultaneously. So all of these things came out of that extensive consultation. There were over 15 groups that Kim organized that we consulted with, and I think 250 people approximately participated in that exercise. And then the upper level of the existing community center renovated for the library. So this is a kind of area summary. It's approximately half new construction, half renovation. And then this was the question that the councillor asked. About 2 months ago, we took the project, we made some of the revisions that had been suggested. We sent it back to the quantity surveyor. The quantity surveyors are independent cost consultants. And they did a complete new costing of the current plan. So it's not a simple update of what was done previously, but it's a complete new costing. So this is a view of the main entrance from Jesse Street, the addition on the left. There's a kind of view, an aerial view from Jerry Park with the parking lot on the right-hand side. This is a view, again, from Jesse Street, and you can see the community kitchen, which is the lower mass on the left. And then, Vanessa, here's your moment. If you could press the button. This is
You escape and then I'll have
we have James here if we need some help. So it's just a bit of a video walkthrough, which I think gives you a better sense of what the space would be like.
There's the icon at the bottom. That should bring you back to it. Yeah. There you go.
Oh, look at that. Cars are moving. Sorry, I'm just looking for
Like the Jet Pavilion over there. No sound.
It should be music, but we could add that for next version.
Commentary to
That's about that. We have what to do with that music. We're good.
Sounds cardboard.
Yeah.
So this is the new main entrance. The library on your right and the community hall on your left. You have the library on the upper level, and the existing community center, and the meeting rooms and other facilities, archives on the lower level of this facility. So here we're entering the main community space. So we're showing it its configuration as a gymnasium with sort of basketball courts. The hall is divisible into two. There are portable stages. There are the community kitchens you can see on the left-hand side.
How many people would the hall hold?
About 300. So 150 in each half, or about 300. And of course, there's new washrooms that to support that. So here's the connection out to Jerry Park, and there's kind of an outdoor courtyard, another community space. Parking lot on the right. And it's really a multi-use parking lot. Here we are. There's another kind of setup for farmer's market, a flea market, a kind of special food event, any number of things you can think of. So
The building itself is also green, is it not, based
Yes,
on
it is.
the details, so the
Yes.
LED and
energy efficient mechanical systems, new windows envelope for the existing facility. So the existing facility will be the same standard as a new construction at the completion of the project.
Is the cost estimate that we've been talking about take everything that we're looking at into consideration
It does, yes.
there? Nice.
Okay.
even paving of the parking lot?
Yes.
Oh, nice, okay. I was thinking we were looking at a gravel lot for a while.
So that's really just an overview, and happy to answer questions or go back to any of that information if you have more questions.
Any
Specific
questions, Mr. Schultz? Councilor Meany?
I think I was going to miss this opportunity. No. Through your worship, Mr. Schultz, I have a few questions. During our video walkthrough there, which I didn't see before, there's glass all the way around the gym, so playing basketball could be an issue. Is there any design for blinds or more red blinds to be there that are not going to be destroyed by the balls?
There it is, yes.
Yes. And the end walls, again, having had to rebuild a facility that had drywall, the end walls will be of material that is less destructive and won't move.
Yeah, most of the walls inside the community hall gymnasium are concrete block with a kind of a decorative concrete block, but a durable finish. I agree, drywall is not an appropriate material for that.
And to that end in the gym, with those two areas that the walls will be mounting off of, and I know that we talked about having possibly a stage in some of the designs. Would that wall be a drop-down stage as a possibility at each end to create that avenue?
We had not looked at that option. The stages we were talking about were portable, and it's a folding wall. I mean, this is still a conceptual design, so the first step after approval, if you decide to approve it, and then the senior government levels approve it as well, would be a detailed design exercise where all of those options would be considered and we'd working with.
Well, I also find sometimes if I don't offer this up now at this stage, it gets forgotten or lost.
Sure.
Having been involved in a lot of projects recently and a lot of things, I do put a lot of questions when it comes to this stuff. And I know that we talked about radiant heat in the floors, so that be throughout upper and lower levels.
It would be throughout the addition, and not the existing building. We're not thinking of that. That would require, it's on the upper level of the addition, but not the lower level.
Yeah, which, I don't know the benefit since I built a house with radiant floor heat, so I know the true benefit of that
Yes.
entity, which is very nice. And I know that the township is possibly trying to get natural gas into the area, so it will be on natural gas instead of propane, hopefully. But one other thing that I did find that I thought it was definitely missing is in the parking lot, a entrance off Jesse Street. It only has the one entrance, which is back on what's now called Harold Evans Way, which I would find could be congested if you had a large group and or an emergency through that one driveway.
I'm just going to go back here. Yeah, there are two entrances on Jesse Street, and it's sort of from the parking lot, but nothing onto the side street. It could be done, but it would require taking a driver. Is that what you're suggesting? Around the back of the?
No, actually on Jesse Street, to the parking lot itself, there is no driveway, there's a walkway, but not a driveway.
Well, sorry, there is a, let's see this. I can go back one and kind of see where I can see it. There are two, sorry.
Talking about the roadway.
My design here is not clearly defined.
Yeah,
That's why I was.
there is an entrance. It's shown as if it's colored concrete, but there is an entrance. So right in the middle of the parking lot, there is one. It would also be possible to put two in if we wanted. So that's just the way the material is rendered, but there's definitely an entrance on Jesse
Yeah,
Street.
because again, with larger vehicles coming in, something centralized like that would be difficult. So if it was at a straight line in, you would be able to get larger vehicles like flatbed tractor trailer if it was doing display purposes or whatever. Making that sharp corner would be difficult.
Sure. Okay.
Any further questions for Mr. Schultz? Councilor Cody?
Thank you, Your Worship. I thought I heard, or maybe it was just discussed at one time, a capacity to feed 500. Is this tweakable, I guess I would say, in this concept?
I suppose it would depend. If part of the group were outside, you could certainly do that. I thought it was 300, but maybe Kim.
Sorry, through you, Your Worship, that could be my mistake. I know that we were discussing occupancy figures at one point, and for some
Yeah.
reason, you know, the 450, 500 stuck in my head, so I do apologize that I may have been sharing inaccurate information.
The other thing you could look at is the outdoor space that is just outdoor space and just nice concrete and landscaped and looking lovely. The room could be extended probably for a very limited amount for what we're looking. We're not looking at it, we're just looking to add square footage if that was the goal type thing.
Well, where I'm coming from, I know, having talked to industries involved with tourism or sports, 250 or 300 is a little mundane. If we're gonna go with this, let's go big or go home, and I don't mean dollars and cents, although it'll be reflected. But if you build something that'll feed 450 to 500, you're gonna draw from the bigger cities on either side of this, because I know for a fact, a large operation in Kingston said that they're starving for capacity to feed crowds, especially in sporting venues. We're talking about pickleball, capital of our township anyway, and kudos to them. But I think if we kind of hug around the 250 mark for sit-down meal capacity, we're striking the ball a little low. But I mean, we got time to tweak all this down the road. I mean, as Deputy Mayor Lackey said, if we don't get the funding for this, well, we can sit here and talk all night, right next week.
Any further questions for Mr. Schultz? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Thank you very much. Oh, Councilor James.
Thank you for your presentation. My comment is tangential to the presentation, if that's all right.
Yeah, okay.
Your Worship, I realize that this is a good plan and the township will move ahead with it if all the ducks line up. I do hope that not too soon and not too late in this process that we've addressed some of the challenges in the smaller villages which were mentioned. And I'm particularly concerned that if there is an overwhelming focus on what goes on at the library in Lansdowne, that there will be further erosion of the services in our libraries in both Lyndhurst and Sealy's Bay. There will be no evening library service in the villages through winter, and there's just a general challenge in my view with how that's approached. So I think I would appreciate council keeping a close eye on how we progress with respect to this and how the other resource centers in our community are managed going forward.
Very fair point. Thank you. Any further questions or concerns? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Do you need me to reread the motion? The Committee of the Whole recommends that the Council declare the Lansdowne Community Hall Revitalization as its priority project for funding under the Investment in Canada Infrastructure Program, and that Council direct the staff to submit an application. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify. All those opposed, carried. Thank you for coming out, gentlemen, and being so patient.
Thank you.
Does anybody need a break? I realize that we're going, and then we continue to plow through here. I'm gonna plow through.
Yes.
Next motion on the floor, moved by Councilor Maybe, seconded by Councilor Cody, that the committee of the whole recommends the council approve the distribution of community grants in the amount of $25,960 as detailed in Appendix 1 to the Community and Business Services Report number CBS-018-19. So Councilor Cody declared a conflict, so he'll leave the room. And now the motion is on the floor. Any comments or questions in regards to the grants as presented by Councilor Maybe?
Yes, through you, Your Worship. I would like to see this one deferred. I think there's some information that has to come forward, some conversation for this one, so I'd like to see it deferred.
Deputy Mayor Lackey.
Could I ask the council what that information might be?
I would rather actually take it offline first and then bring it back.
Is it a closed session item or is it potentially a closed session item? Councilor Jameson?
That was essentially my question. It involves one of the businesses involved in the, we don't have to know who, but it's the concern, Your Worship, that there's one of the businesses that there's some concern about.
I believe that's the issue that's coming forward. So that is requested funding, so it might be, Ms. Goodman, is that going to compromise the grant program if we defer this to the next meeting? Are you looking to be deferred to the council meeting or the next meeting of the council? This one?
Meeting's fine.
So it wouldn't delay anything to wait till the next council meeting?
Your Worship, if we're gonna make a decision on deferring or not, I need to know why.
Councilor Jameson?
Do we need to go in camera? Your Worship, clerk.
So we will need a motion to move in camera to discuss the issue at hand so that we know whether we should move forward or not with that. So the clerk will draw up the motion.
Through your worship, this is on the agenda. Public agenda, so if there's an objection to something on this issue, then I think it needs to be addressed in open council.
CAO has a comment to make about that.
Thank you, Your Worship. Council can go into closed session to discuss whether they should be in closed session. If we go into closed session and it's determined that we are in discussion, we'll continue. If not, we'll come right back into open session. But it's difficult to discuss whether or not you should be in closed session in a public forum without revealing information that is protected by privacy and should be in closed session. And I understand that the reason, correct me if I'm wrong, would be it's identifiable individual, and that's quite proper to do with any item that might appear in the open session.
Through your worship. Then why is it on our agenda? Why will not it identify it prior?
I think there's information that's come to light that would affect the decision in that process, but it needs to be identified. We can discuss that in camera, and then if it's, we'll go forward from there. Moved by Councilor Maybe, seconded by Councilor Jameson, the committee of the whole adjourn forming camera to consider a personal matter about an identifiable individual or business as it pertains to staff report CDS-018-19. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? Carried. Okay.
Yeah, whoever the council wants to permit it, and you can come in. Whoever's directed by council is directed, so.
Sorry for the audience members that have to wait, or those watching at home that have been waiting patiently. So we've come to consensus, and we're going to move forward with the agenda item as presented. So I believe there is an amendment coming forward to the motion at hand. The motion at hand is moved by Councillor Maybe, seconded. Can't be seconded by Councillor Foley, he's not in the room. Moved by Councillor Maybe, seconded by Councillor Jameson, that the Committee of the Whole recommends that Council approve the distribution of community grants in the amount of $25,960 as detailed in Appendix 1 to Community Business Services Report number CBS-018-19. Would anybody like to make the amendment as discussed?
Through your worship, let's make the amendment that first item on the list be held or deferred to next week unless further clarification on their request.
I'll second that. Should the motion read 10-19,
So
first of 8-19?
we'll vote on the amendment and then we'll vote on So the amendment that's on the floor is that Committee of the Whole recommends that Council defer the application received by Dreams of Motion to the meeting October 15th, 2019 to allow staff time to obtain further direction, or further information, I should say. And that was moved by Councillor Maybe and Deputy Mayor Lackey. So I'll vote on that amendment. All those in favor of the amendment? All those opposed? Carried. And then the original motion, which was Councillor Maybe and Councillor Jameson, was that the Committee of the Whole recommends that Council approve the distribution of community grants in the amount of $19,960 as detailed in Appendix 1 to the Community Business Services Report. And then the amendment would be that the Committee of the Whole recommends Council defer the application received for Dreams in Motion to the meeting of October 15, 2019 to allow staff time to obtain further information. So any further discussion on that motion? Any discussion on the grants that are at hand, that the rest of them on the list? I know there was a discussion in regards to the Gananoque Canoe Club and why they did not receive money this particular time around, but I believe Ms. Goodwin can speak to that.
Certainly, thank you, Your Worship. This council approved a new community grants policy earlier in this calendar year, and as per the policy, one of the items was community groups or individuals can only receive funding once per calendar year. This is not atypical of any other granting organizations and agencies. So because the Gananoque Canoe Club was a successful recipient earlier this year, as per policy, they are unable to apply this year. However, having reviewed their application, we are definitely going to encourage them to come back for our spring round because it is a good proposal that they brought forward, definitely one worth considering. So we're looking forward to seeing that one again in this room.
Thank you very much for that clarification. Any further discussion on the report at hand? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify. All those opposed? Carried. Moving right along with the agenda, Councillor Fody, if you'd like to come back into the room. Moved by Councillor Fody. motion on the floor, moved by Councillor Fode, seconded by Councillor Jameson, that the committee of the whole recommends that council approve procurement / credit card policy as presented. Treasurer, would you like to speak to that?
Through your worship, just formalizing this policy now that we actually have some corporate credit cards in practice, and take an opportunity to outline some of the internal controls and other procedures around how we would handle those cards.
Any questions for the treasurer in regards to the policy? So Councillor Jameson, Councillor Fode, and then Councillor Meady.
Referring to your worship, what in my book is, I believe, page 240, there is a point, the card will not be used for personal use purchases or obtaining cash advances. Okay, that makes complete sense. I'm not sure why we have these remedies. If it was found the card was used, the employee will be expected to make immediate payment. I think it almost opens the door to the extent that if it is the corporate card and it is only supposed to be used for township business, it is not sufficient in my mind, based on my own experience, to just simply say, well, if somebody uses it, then they have to repay it. I think you've got a challenge there that is greater than that. Seeking remedy, I think the challenge is it just simply should not be used.
Any, Councillor Fode?
Thank you, Your Worship. I agree with Councillor Jameson. I think there's too many gray areas in some of this wording. It may have been adopted from some other jurisdiction that, is much larger than ours, I don't know, but I would like to see more clarity here. I just don't think the so-called penalty outweighs the temptation in some cases. This is exactly what led to some of the previous problems. And we had cards in the hands of people who, quite frankly, shouldn't have, and or misused them. And if this is the penalty, it's not much of a deterrent.
Councillor Meady?
Through you, Madam Mayor. Treasurer, when reading it, I kind of went, so how many cards are we going to process and have out there?
I believe that the treasurer answered that question before in a previous meeting, but go ahead, treasurer.
Currently, there are only 3 cards that have been issued.
And so there's only 3 cards issued to date, and I don't believe that there's any need for any further cards to be issued at this point in time. There hasn't been any demand for such. I don't think the policy prohibits us from having more cards, but I don't think it's a policy that, based on the internal controls that are coming into play and online, I don't imagine that we'll be having everybody standing up to get one. Any further questions in regards to this? So if we're looking to amend the policy as presented, I guess we would need to amend the motion as well. Councillor Fode?
Just an opinion, Your Worship. I trust our staff. I'd like to think we can. And I think our treasurer, our CAO, and the rest of council has heard some of the comments made here. I think
Unfortunately, the motion is written in such a way that it's approved the procurement / credit card policy as presented. So we would need to add another sentence to that to say, or change as presented, as amended.
Well, if you're looking for clarity, then we need to amend it.
Is that fair? So, so the motion made by yourself and then seconded by Councillor Jameson, credit card policy as amended, based on the discussion this evening, because we've given direction. So as amended, as suggested during the committee of the whole. We'll still have the ability to turn it down or move forward with it next week. I think we can give you further detail between now and next week. Try to look right. So a motion moved by Councillor Jameson, seconded by Councillor Fode, that the committee of the whole recommends that council approve the procurement / credit card policy as amended during discussion. Any further discussion on this motion? Seeing none, we'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? Carried. Next motion on the floor, moved by Councillor Jameson, seconded by Councillor Maybe, that the committee of the whole recommends that council award the RFQ FS-2019-003 breathing air compressor module to Comp Air Canada in the amount of $42,080 plus HST of $5,470 for a total of $47,550, and that the committee of the whole recommends that council approve the budget amendment to the 2019 capital budget in the amount of $2,900 to be funded from the fire capital reserve. Discussion on this motion. Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify. All those opposed, carried. Next motion on the floor, moved by Councillor Jameson, seconded by Councillor Maybe, that the committee of the whole recommends that council pass bylaw number 19-034 to regulate open air burning in the township of Lee from 1,000 Islands. Any discussion on this motion? Councillor Brown?
Thank you, through you, Your Worship. Just a couple of comments. There were times when I was a little concerned about many of the setbacks written into the bylaw, but it has been pointed out to me through the fire chief that many people are not as responsible as others, and that some of the teeth in this thing need to be there. I just want it on the record that, again, some of those setbacks are for the bad actors, and the fire department requires the authority. So in that regard, I support the bylaws.
Thank you very much for clarifying that. We appreciate it. Any further questions or comments in regards to this? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify. All those opposed, carried. Okay. Moved by Councillor Fode, seconded by Councillor Jameson, that committee of the whole recommends that council pass the zoning bylaw amendment to rezone the subject property to Island Residential Special Exception Zone RI-30. So that is page 261. Any discussion on this motion as presented? Councillor or Deputy Mayor Lackey?
Just to be on the record, the whole island used to be a farming community, so I find this ironic that this is where we're at, so somebody can have a couple of miniature ponies and so.
Any further discussion on this motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify. All those opposed, carried. Next motion on the floor, moved by Councillor Corral and seconded by Councillor Lackey, that the committee of the whole recommend that council approve the zoning bylaw amendment to rezone the subject property from rural and agriculture to rural to consolidate the zoning on the property. Any discussion on this motion? Councillor Corral.
Although it's not, it is, what I want to say is it's germane to the amendment, and it's the letter that was submitted by your family regarding the costs, and I'm not sure how the township could address that. Does it need to be brought up as a separate item at council and not part of this amendment, or could we amend this? Should we have further discussion on that letter that they sent to us?
I think in order for us to have discussion on it, we'd have to amend the motion that's on the floor to say, basically say at no cost to the applicant, based on what their request was. Basically what they're asking for is no cost. Marnie, would you like to speak to that?
Thank you, through you. I think a separate motion that would specifically address the correspondence in terms of refunding the application fees would be the direction that we would need.
So we can defer this motion till October 15th.
No, through your worship, I would approve this motion and then bring.
Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood what was suggested, I apologize. So basically, we'll either pass or defeat this motion now, and then we'll bring a separate motion to the October 15th in regards to the fees and costs associated with this, as per the correspondence sent to us. Okay, got it. So the motion is on the floor. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? Carried. Okay, so next motion on the floor, Councilor Mayhew declared conflict, so he'll leave. Moved by Councilor Lackey, seconded by Councilor Grell, that the committee of the whole recommend the council approve the zoning bylaw amendment to rezone a portion of the subject property from institutional to institutional dash holding zone IH. Any further discussion on this motion? Based on the public meeting, no further, there was no additional information given today. Deputy Mayor?
So as it says in the report, I just want to reconfirm that, I mean, the next step, which is stage 4, they may or may not do it. And if they don't, that holding will just stay there forever and ever, amen. And if somebody buys it, that they will have to do that based on that being, I guess, on the registry on the title.
Madam Clerk?
For you, that's correct. Depending on the nature of what the resource may be, it may not be possible to remove it. It may be protected in sight, so the holding symbol will just run with the property to protect it, and any future changes in ownership or removal.
Any further discussion on this, Councilor Grell?
Thank you. Through you, Your Worship. Does that apply to just about any land use? Does that property just, if you want to put a park there, does that property become subject to an archaeological study? It seems to freeze it forever.
Through your worship, the area that's affected by the holding symbol is the area that it applies to. It's very specific. So there has been assessment done of the property as a whole to narrow the focus down to the particular area that needs to be protected. So the zoning for the property could potentially change from institutional. It could change to a commercial or a residential property, but the holding symbol would remain as is until any conditions related to, so it could be an R-change zone, or if somebody purchases the property and changes the zoning. But the H is a tool under the Planning Act that allows you to put conditions on an area of zoning that need to be satisfied. So the H will run with the property until it's either removed and all conditions are met, or it stays there.
Any further discussion on this motion? Councilor Grell?
Sorry, it is unclear to me who owns that property. It's institutional. Who owns it?
Madam Clerk?
Through your worship, right now the province owns it, but they're looking at divesting themselves of the property.
Thank you.
Any further comments or questions in regards to this motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify. All those opposed, carried. Next motion on the floor, moved by Councilor Lackey, or Deputy Mayor Lackey, seconded by Councilor Grell. The committee of the whole recommends that council adopt a bylaw to stop, up, close, and convey at fair market value a portion of an unopened road allowance adjacent to 1126 County Road 32, and that further that the committee of the whole recommends that should any survey or updated reference plan of the lands be conveyed be required, it be completed by the applicant at their expense, and further that the committee of the whole recommends that the applicant provides the township with a land appraisal for the property to determine the value of the land value as established in the appraisal, and any other costs incurred to complete the land transaction be paid for by the applicant. Any discussion on this motion? Councilor Grell?
For land appraisal of that nature, through you, Your Worship, would it the township's job to suggest who the appraiser is, as opposed to the applicant?
Through you, Worship. We can work with the owner in terms of obtaining the appraisal. It's the owner's responsibility to obtain the appraisal. If we have concerns regarding the amount or the actual methodology that's been used in the appraisal, we do have the opportunity to have our own independent appraisal done at the expense of the owner. So we will be working together going forward.
Any further questions or concerns in regards to this motion that is on the floor? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? Carried. Next motion on the floor, moved by Councillor Corral and seconded by Councillor Lackey, that the committee of the whole recommends that council authorize the mayor and clerk to execute license agreement with Fisheries and Oceans Canada for the under-pier infrastructure installed at the Sealy Bay Harbor. Any discussion on this motion? Deputy Mayor?
I looked at this and a couple of times and made a call to get, it's what I assumed is general housekeeping, same as our lease, our waterlogged lease, same idea. It's just something that we have to do.
Any further discussion on this, Councilor Foote?
Thank you, Worship. I too, when I read this, the part that jumps off the page here as far as the municipality goes is insurance. If we're putting in a fuel station for one particular customer, are we passing this liability on to them as well?
I think it's more the fact that, that the under-pier infrastructure that's been installed and not been used at this point at Sealy's Bay Harbor has to be licensed by the Fisheries and Oceans of Canada. So it can't be used without this license. It's already there, it's already in place. Unless somebody else wants to describe it in any other manner, this is more housekeeping because it's already there. Councillor Maybe?
Yes, Your Worship, through you, I have a couple of questions. One, the outline that's on the map doesn't encompass where the potential tank is going to sit, because it's where these vehicles are actually parked. The end of the dock is not encompassed in that, and hence, is there still equipment, fire equipment, trained staff to run it? Because again, that's part of our liability, I believe, when signing an agreement like this, that some of this equipment must be there and be able to be used. So I believe that outline should actually encompass a lot more area if you're going to.
This is only pertaining to the water that it goes over, because that's the only jurisdiction that Fisheries and Oceans of Canada has. So otherwise, that, I understand what you're saying, but the only reason that the outline, it only outlines the water, because it's over top of the water, which is the only jurisdiction that Fisheries and Oceans have.
Just as a follow-up, if we have a spill, the parking lot is right to the water.
That, I believe, would be covered by TSSA and MOE, thank you, because we would have to have licensed installs and proper infrastructure there before we would be able to allow use to pump this through.
Just being devil's advocate.
That's fair. Councilor Foote?
Thank you, Your Worship. 12B is the one that really got my attention. That's doubling down on this insurance, but when you read 12B and its context, it's pretty short and sweet, but it's very damning. I should have never replied.
In regards to the insurance that's required. Mr. Boone, do you want to speak to that as far as what we have explored with our own insurance company as far as what expectations they would have if this was used on a regular basis?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, I haven't really spoken with anyone else on the insurance for this. We do have a certificate from our insurer that meets requirements of this license. We have that in hand currently. we don't report any issues getting that from them. And certainly, you know, there's liability everywhere with respect to this. And with respect to the spill kits, we do have those already on site, and we do everything we can to mitigate, you know, anything we can do with liability, but there certainly is with fuel near the water like this. But again, I think we need to keep in mind, this is the license agreement for specific infrastructure, and you know, we're covered off as long as we provide all the required documentation that they have required. Again, thinking just specifically of the infrastructure under the pier, and we are able to provide that in order to make this, to have this be able to be endorsed by the mayor and clerk.
Any further discussion on this motion? So I'll reread the motion at hand, moved by Councillor Burrell, seconded by Councillor Lappy, that the committee of the whole recommends that council authorize the mayor and clerk to execute the license agreement with Fisheries and Oceans Canada for the under-pier infrastructure installed at Sealy Bay Harbor. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call a question. All those in favor, please signify. All those opposed, carried. Next motion on the floor, moved by Deputy Mayor Lackey and seconded by Councillor Burrell, that the committee of the whole recommends that council accept the request for proposal submission from Alternative Solutions, Inc. for the replacement of the fleet fuel management and control system. Mr. Boone, would you like to speak to this?
Thank you, Your Worship. Not really much to add from the report. I believe we've had discussions around the table at budget time, and we've described the issue we've had with the existing system. And staff are pleased with the outcome of this procurement process. Its price came in quite reasonable in our opinion.
Any questions for Mr. O'Meara? Councillor Maybe, Councillor Foley, and Deputy Mayor Lackey.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and Mr. Cohen. Does the system have a passcode or some sort of way of tracking each vehicle that's getting fueled, and which department it may go to? Because I know we talked about that at our budget deliberations and whether that has been worked into the system. So that's basically my biggest thing.
Your Worship, through you, Councillor Maybe. So our current system is a typical car lock system. So the user has to identify themselves with a secret code, and they also identify the vehicle with an RFID tag. Currently, and we'll be using our similar fobs to what we use to access the building. We're going to integrate those systems into the new system. So certainly there are multiple checks and balances that are already in place with our system, and this system will operate very much the same way. So indeed, there's complete access and accounting of all users and vehicles to the systems.
Thank you very much. Councillor Foley?
Question answered, thank you.
Deputy Mayor?
Same.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. As we move right along, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion on the floor? All those opposed? Carried. Next motion presented, moved by Councillor Lackey, seconded by Councillor Burrell, whereas the 1990s conservative government forced many municipalities to amalgamate under the guise that they would become more efficient, effective, save money, lower taxes, and ultimately reduce the provincial deficit. And whereas there has never been a valid evidence-based study that supported these outcomes, and whereas there are many positive examples of small rural municipalities working together in a collaborative and cooperative manner via shared agreements that respond to local needs without amalgamation and provincial interference, and whereas the provincial government has a large deficit due to their own decision-making. Discussion on this motion. Deputy Mayor?
So basically where this derived from was one of our last meetings. There was a motion very, very similar from another municipality that got circulated. And I just thought it would be prudent to do our own without all the fluff in it. Just so that we would be the masters of our own destiny should the time come. We've been through the amalgamation process. I'm not saying it wouldn't be prudent to do it again, but that should be up to our residents as well as our decision making and not the province to get us there. So that's just a bit of the background of where this came from.
Further discussion on this? Councilor Burrell?
Through your worship, and thank you, Deputy Mayor Lackey for bringing this forward. I would just, in reading it, I support the concept of it and the importance of it. I would, however, just like to defer it to give an opportunity to perhaps rewrite it and clean up the writing of the motion. As simple as that. But I don't want to change its intent.
Okay. So you're proposing an amendment or a deferral. So the motion for deferral would be moved by yourself, seconded by Deputy Mayor. The committee that will recommend that this motion be deferred to the council meeting held on October 15, 2019 to make the requested amendments. Any discussion on this deferral? Okay, well then we'll vote on the deferral. All those in favor of deferring this motion to October 15? Any further discussion? Sorry, any opposed? I'm obviously losing it now. Thank you, it's carried. The deferral is carried. Next motion moved by Deputy Mayor Lackey, seconded by Councilor Gorell, that the committee of the whole direct staff to prepare a formal agreement with Leeds and the Thousand Islands Public Library, clearly identifying roles and responsibilities with respect to facilities, maintenance and assets, in discussion with the library board and the library CEO for council approval. Any discussion on this motion? Any discussion or comments? Clarification required? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion on the floor? All those opposed? Carried. Next motion on the floor, moved by Deputy Mayor Lackey and seconded by Councilor Gorell. The committee of the whole. Oh, sorry, I got too excited. I apologize. I do have a mayor's update. Number 6, unfinished business first and foremost. No unfinished business. And number 7, other business. Councilor.
Just an announcement that Councilor Cody and myself attended the municipal drug strategy in Mignault, and that was a good presentation generally, and we were particularly taken by the 2 students from the high school who gave a very good presentation, very thoughtful, as well as Chief Gary Hull speaking on enforcement. So it gave us a lot for engagement of the kids and certain items as where they need to be after school and so on and so on. So thank you very much. It was good, well worthwhile attending.
Just a quick add to that. I wasn't present at that meeting, but I know that our Parks and Recreation staff often keep those very things in mind when they're trying to put programs together, so that we have facilities available, programs available to people after school and for that age group specifically. So that's our voting.
Thank you. Before you give your mayor's wrap up, I'd like to thank the staff for getting the newsletter out. We had our first newsletter. It's been more than well received by the voices I've heard, and it's a great start to communication this township is desperately needed. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
I just follow up on the same thing. I have some comments on social media that some people, places didn't receive them. Are we aware of those places and why, or?
Through you, I can certainly look into that. We printed enough for what we, through Canada Post, we get a detailed listing of number of residences, number of apartments, etc. We printed in an additional 250. So either some were misdelivered or whatever the case may be, but we will absolutely resolve that. We have, in the meantime, made paper copies available.
Thank you very much. Any other business? Councilor Reed?
Just that on Saturday afternoon, 4 of us were in attendance to a meeting there on high water, which Mayor will probably allude to. Just for the information, the Brotherhood camp that I was at, 1,455 people there. So it was well attended for that type of weekend. This coming weekend again, copies of Steampunk, our first annual event, which I will be opening. It's 1 to 5, and then there's something at the Royal Theatre later on that evening. So just some information.
Thank you very much. Any other business or matters arising from the standing committees? Anything from the standing committees? I don't believe there's any here or economic development at this point.
I think it did good to everybody, but the library board got, I think it was $3,885 for seniors accessibility, which means it's more for technology. They're teaching seniors how to use social media, providing them with computer access, that type of thing. So our NPP was down on Friday, so they did receive that.
And thank you, Deputy Mayor, for attending in my absence, as I was unable to attend. But it's nice to know that the province looks at all ranges and ages when it comes to technology, because it is the equalizer. Maybe a little more difficult for that age range, but it's not insurmountable. So I'll move right along to the mayor's update. I'd like to basically acknowledge the kickoff of this week's update to thank our local farmers and other food producers. This week we celebrate Ontario Agriculture Week, and let's give a nod to the very important industry and these people who work tirelessly to produce safe and healthy food and raise awareness of its economic impact to our communities, shape our policy and regulations, and so much more. So we thank those who feed us. Farmers do feed cities, and we're lucky that we're benefactors of their hard work. Residents, as described earlier, should have received their Township newsletter, and if you didn't, please send us an email or send us a quick message. I've got a couple of them, and I will pass that along to Ms. Goodman. People who did not receive it, certainly was not intentional, but it's, as Councillor Fody said, it was very well received, and it was an initiative suggested many moons ago, and I'm very pleased that staff have taken this and ran with it. Also, the new pavilion that is up and has now been landscaped, and the fencing is down and available for use. So please, if you haven't had a chance to take a look at the Jerry Park Pavilion, please do so. It is a nice structure and will be used for many years to come. September ended on a very busy note. The Small Halls event I got to MC back at Sealy's Bay, and Union Duke was there. Their band there, and they were quite an eclectic and interesting group of musicians, but it was a great night, and I believe there was like 120 people there or something to that effect. It was a great turnout, and I know that everybody was pleased with the quality of the music. The Turkey Fair was a huge success. If nothing else, it should be a fair warning to county, and I dropped this bomb on them last time I was at county, that we will be expecting them to step up to the plate and help shape the walkway so desperately needed across that bridge. Especially, I realize that obviously Turkey Fair exacerbates it, but we have cyclists on that bridge. It's not safe with even one car, let alone a truck or a tractor trailer that might come through there. So we need to look at options here in the near future for that. The Truffle Shuffle, held in Sealy's Bay last weekend, raised more than $1,800 for the local food bank, and that is a testament to a great business, a great community effort, and all those involved. Congratulations to them. As well as Culture Days in Lyndhurst. There was, I forget how many stops along that tour, but you know, to go from Turkey Fair from one weekend into Culture Days the next was a huge step. I know again, Rockaway had their own art bomb festival, and these were all very well attended and a way for us to tie our community together, especially for arts and culture. So thank you to everybody who put their time into that. And this is also the month that we recognize our local libraries. Ontario Public Library Week is October 20th to the 26th. so be sure to drop in and visit your local library branch. They offer a large range of programs and services. Upcoming items for October, the biggest one is if you haven't noticed, there's an election going on October 21st. And the Historical Society decided to also put a presentation on October 21st at the Lansdowne Community Building. So if you're looking to go and vote and then looking for something to do while you wait for the results to come in, maybe going to their presentation would be great. We're also having a public info session on the Rockport Strategic Plan Review. The transport study is scheduled for Thursday, October 24th at the Rockport Rec Hall. So if you have an interest in that, please do attend. Staff are definitely looking forward to hosting some Halloween events in partnership with some local parent councils, Lions, and other nonprofits, and a couple of fun events for young families. A reminder that township parks close on Thanksgiving weekend, and with that, our summer program has wrapped up for another year. And a huge thanks to all the seasonal and summer staff and their efforts this summer. November is already looking very busy. The mayor's breakfast is slated for November 14th here in the township, and we will be getting some specific details out shortly about that. But please mark your calendars, save the date. It will begin at 7:30 in the morning. Somebody will have to get up quite early. Mark Jameson, also in November, obviously, we have Remembrance Day services across the municipality. This year I've chosen Linters because they asked me first. I've indicated Sealy's Bay has come forward. I have indicated that I'll be there next year. So I'm going to rotate throughout the municipality, and my hope is that if any of you have the time available, that you can attend any one of the services in Linters, Sealy's Bay, or Lansdowne. I'm not sure if Rockport has one. They have a Mauritan Legion has a Remembrance Day, but I don't believe there's a specific one in Rockport.
It used to be part of the Legion in Mallory Town, and it would come down after. But last year they did not. I know that's true. I don't know the instance.
Thank you. Councilor Brady?
Just for the Remembrance Day, do we lay wreaths typically at these ones?
That's good.
Certainly through your worship, we typically actually, coming next week, I will have a full info report for you listing all the activities or services that are occurring within the township, date, time, location, and that we can probably fill you in with any additional information that you may require if there's particular service you would like to attend.
Thank you. Social media workshops for small businesses are also happening this month. Christmas parades, and obviously a whole lot more. Debates for the federal election were hosted both in Lansdowne and Sealy's Bay Thursday and Friday, respectively, last week. Please be sure to educate yourself, and please, if nothing else, vote. It's a right that is denied to many throughout the world, and we have the right here in Canada, and we should exercise it. Very, very exciting. The signs are finally going up, and thank you to the staff here today, ensuring that those projects are finally being seen through. I know it's been a long haul, but they're starting to get up, and we're hearing good news, so you'll see them. I know that they had part of County Road 3 blocked off there by the liquor store today, trying to get them installed. So please take a selfie and send it in, and hashtag love where you live. The administration office and the waste sites will be closed for Thanksgiving, and we have a lot to be thankful for here in Leeds and the Thousand Islands, and we hope that everybody takes time with their family. Speaking of family, I just want a couple more things. Russ Thompson had his 100th birthday on September 22nd at the Sealy's Bay Legion, and my goodness, what a remarkable man, and what a remarkable family. They run Thompson Electric up in Sealy's Bay, and there's a testament for someone who came here with very little, established themselves in third generation business, still running later and growing, and that's really awesome for us as a township. Just my last comment will be in regards to high water. I don't want to end on a sour note by any means, but it is a very serious issue that continues to plague our residents and our municipality. The Thousand Islands Association gathered over 100 people on Saturday at 11 a.m. and they did that in 6 days because they just needed to do it, and people are starting to leave their residences and close them up. So they knew they needed to have some sort of gathering to educate, but to also rally support. I had the ability to attend, as well as Councillor Rapp, Councillor Bay, Councillor Fody. Unfortunately, Councillor Fody, fortunately, with his big heart that he has, there was an unfortunate incident where a gentleman who went down with a serious heart issue and had to be transported by ambulance from that meeting, and Councillor Fody drove his wife to the hospital and reported back that he was breathing on his own and doing well, and we do wish him all the best and a speedy recovery, but knew that his wife needed a little bit of support, and definitely not a day to drive to the hospital on our own. So thank you very much for taking the time to do that. But one of the things that was clear to me at that meeting, there's a couple of things. Municipalities, as much as the actual homeowners, have been left bewildered by all of this. And by no means am I minimizing the damage that's been done to people's personal property. It's very different what we've experienced on the municipal side. But these decisions with Plan 2014 were made, and based on a lot of the information discussed on Saturday, were made knowing that they would affect infrastructure, that they would affect shorelines, and really would revert back to us. But we were not involved in that decision-making process, and we certainly weren't prepared for the devastation and damage that was going to be done to our residents' property. But I think the biggest thing that I took away from that particular meeting was the Treaty of 1909. And there was a treaty signed by both the United States and Canada in regards to basically a pecking order of how we make decisions in regards to the waterfront and the shorelines on both sides of the river. And the number one guiding purpose is to deal with domesticity and people's homes. That was number one. Number two was infrastructure, municipal, provincial, federal, like bridges, waterways, or bridges, roads, water intakes, all of those sorts of things. And then third was shipping. So that's the order that we're supposed to be looking at this decision-making process. And it certainly does not feel that way. And I had written a letter to the IGC the day before of that meeting, basically to express my disappointment in the lack of attention to honoring the commitment that they made to us on August 27th, when I met with my fellow mayors and from the United Counties as well as the separated municipalities. We came together as a group of mayors to stand unified in front of the IGC. We had the benefit of meeting with them. The group in Quinte West, who got together, Hastings, Quinte West, City of Belleville, all of that group, they did a very similar thing. The only difference was the IGC wasn't at that meeting, I don't believe. So, and I'm certainly not trying to undermine what they're doing here, but I think I need the residents to understand that we are as frustrated and disappointed as they are. We will continue to fight on their behalf. We will continue to pressure as best we can, and we will continue to try and work with other municipalities to create that groundswell that's needed. So I just wanted to let the residents know that we are still continuing to work on that diligently. Also, tomorrow night, there's a gathering of gratitude at for the Brockville General Hospital redevelopment. Tomorrow night at the Aquatarium at 5 o'clock, if anybody's interested. We did contribute as the United Counties of Leeds and Revitalization into that redevelopment, and it is important to this area as many people live on this side of County Road 3. We go to Brockville General Hospital, and the healthcare services there are an integral part of the fabric of our community. So if you can attend, please do. And I'm not sure if I missed anything else. Now that I'm totally worse. Anything else? Councilor Grant? Yeah. Go ahead.
Thank you. I've been receiving emails that are clearly inappropriate. Here's one just received tonight at 8:12 p.m. on the company site here, and the treasurer responded to me how to deal with this, and I just want to clarify that everybody's probably receiving these. This one's from Wayne Renfrank, and it's this I've had I think 4 in the last 2 days, so just want to make people aware. So I'm happy she was here.
Yeah, the CIO can speak to that.
Thank you, Your Worship. I want to make it clear that with the treasurer, we are in touch with our service provider and have all the appropriate controls in place. We want to make sure that they're stopping these emails, and it's good to bring to attention to staff and to council. And thank you for your pleasure. And we are taking steps to ensure that we don't have that. The staff are educated and how to deal with that type of email.
So one last parting thought. If you haven't picked up the Review Mirror, please do so. There is an article on the front page in regards to the a demolition of a building in Rio Lakes. The demolition cost, basically the headline is lack of early property standards enforcement is a cautionary tale. Delta demolition to cost township $180,000. So there's a building in Delta that has to be demolished, and it's going to cost the township $180,000, which will then be put on the individual's tax bill. We have encountered a number of properties that have required our intervention. And we've been fortunate recently to have recovered the cost of that intervention. But just to make everyone aware in the township that our property standards individual who works for us and works for the residents, we are going to be over the next few years looking at community improvement plans, which will hopefully encourage people to maintain property standards more so than they are now. There's lots of great, beautiful properties in this township, but there's some that are a little lackluster. But our hope is that we can have people work together to avoid these sorts of things, because it costs all township taxpayers when we have to demo a property and have to divest ourselves of said property because the taxes aren't paid. So if you are struggling with a neighbor or a property that's very derelict, we will not be letting these things go for long lengths of time, as this cautionary tale says. The longer it goes on, often the more costly that it is. So if you get a call from property bylaw standards, please don't bite their head off. We're here to help, and we're here to help find ways of pointing people in the right direction. There's lots of opportunity for them. So just that little bit. Any other announcements or comments to be made before we tie up the meeting? Seeing none, I'll put the motion on the floor. Moved by Councilor Lackey, seconded by Councilor Grau. Let the committee of the whole adjourn. All those in favor? All those opposed? Carried. Thanks, everybody. Oh.